In this guide, you're going to learn exactly why you suck at support and simple, easy to apply ways to fix it. My name's Hex, I'm a multi-season challenger player that's been teaching League of Legends here at Skillcapped for over 10 years. And if there's one thing I've learned in that time, it's that being good at support doesn't require you to master every single detail of the game or have crazy good mechanics. You can see big gains in your rank just by understanding a few simple concepts and fixing a couple key mistakes you likely don't even know you're making. That's why my promise to you is if you watch this guide until the end, that you will see significant rank gains. And speaking of boosting your win rate, if you truly want to learn how to carry bad teammates and finally rank up as a support, then you absolutely need our brand new 6-chapter support course at skillcap.com. This course will teach you step by step everything you need to start carrying as support: wave control, trading, roaming, warding, macro, and team fighting. After that, head on over to our Smurf commentaries. Select your champion to watch live commentaries from challenger experts showing you how to carry out of the exact rank you're stuck in. You can try all of this out completely risk-free, since if you don't rank up while actively using Skillcapped, you'll get your money back, no questions asked. You can unlock all of this right now through the exclusive discount you can only access through the link below. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description below to get the rank you've always wanted. Okay, so the first mistake you need to fix as support is giving your jungler a leash for way too long. You really don't want to be leashing for any longer than 3 auto attacks. This is because you'll arrive to lane way too late, and one of the easiest ways to get ahead early on is actually just getting the push advantage at level 1. This is because once 3 minions die on the second wave, you'll spike level 2 on the opponent. In this case, you can see how the enemy bot lane is going to spike level 2 first, since they're way ahead in minions. And here's the second mistake supports make. Most players hit level 2 first and then try to go in. This can work against really bad players, but any decent player will know the level 2 timing and just back off. So instead, you want to look to do what this Lulu does. On the minion before hitting level 2, look to engage. This can often bait the enemy since you're still level 1. Then you spike level 2 mid-fight, and just like that, you're getting first blood and possibly even a double kill, and the lane is over. This level 2 timing is so important to master, especially if you're a melee support against a ranged support. Trying to fight level 1 as the melee 99% of the time is a bad idea, since the range advantage will be too much and will result in you getting poked down while the enemy gets the push advantage. You can see not only is Leona getting poked down, but she's even engaging right before the enemy is going to spike level 2 with their minion advantage. And of course, if you're the ranged support, look to abuse this common mistake. And if you're the melee support, realize you'll often need to just sit back and let the enemy hit level 2 and push the wave into your tower. Then, once the wave has crashed into your tower, typically once you hit level 3, the ranged support is now super pushed up the lane, and it's your chance to engage as the wave pushes back. Also, it's probably not a surprise to find out fighting for the push advantage at level 1 is still the best way to approach melee versus melee support matchups. Melee champions will have great engage, so you'll often set up a lot of all-ins off the level 2 spike. Just make sure you always try to focus the enemy AD carry. The reason for this is trading your health with the enemy ADC is one of the best ways you can win your lane as support. You'll see here, as soon as Kog'Maw and Leona get into lane, the main focus is not poking Leona, it's poking the enemy AD carry, even if that means trading health. This is because the enemy ADC gets punished way more if they die or have to take a bad recall, since they actually need to be farming minions while you don't as a support. You'll even see here the level 2 all-in once again coming into play, and even though we traded deaths with the enemy support, look at the ADCs. Kog'Maw's lane is now unplayable, while Caitlyn is still full health. So, as soon as we get back to lane, Kog'Maw's too low in health to even walk up to farm minions, which means a tower dive is perfectly fine. Even if you die killing the ADC, he's going to lose the entire wave, and they need minions way more than you do as a support. I'm telling you, if you literally just focus on making sure you get the push advantage level 1 and spike level 2 first, while also looking for opportunities to either poke the enemy AD carry or trade health with them, you will be so far ahead in lane, it's insane. Like, the enemy mid tries to gank level 2, and the bot lane is just so far ahead from these two concepts that our AD carry is full health, raining down DPS, and that's an easy 2v3 triple kill, and the lane is completely over. Now, of course, if you have to give up the push early, then that's fine, just don't get caught out by the level 2 all-in. The concept of trading health with the enemy ADC, though, is important throughout the lane. Here's a really crazy example. So here, Lulu moves up with 2 intentions. First is to trade health with Seraphine. Second is that if Seraphine is focusing Lulu, she's not damaging the wave with her abilities. This means Jinx will get the push advantage. Now, if we pause here, obviously that's a losing trade in terms of health, but the reason why this works is Lulu can just recall once the wave crashes if she needs to. As a support, the one one wave control concept you absolutely must know is the concept of rebounding a wave. When a wave is crashed into the tower, if the enemy's next incoming wave gets stuck on it, it will result in the two waves being closer to the enemy side of the lane. This then means the next incoming wave of the enemy starts to damage the wave first, causing it to push back towards you. Basically, all you need to know is when a wave is pushed into a tower, 99% of the time it's going to rebound off that tower and start pushing back to you. What this means is that if you trade health with the enemy ADC as you're pushing, you always have the option to just recall once the wave is pushed into that tower. This is because your ADC won't really lose much CS as the wave bounces back, and at the same time, it puts the enemy AD carry in a terrible position, often low in health as the wave pushes away from them. So if we go back, that's all that's happening here. Lulu is trading health with the enemy AD carry while also securing the push advantage. Now, as the wave crashes, Lulu can take a recall if she wants. A rebound will occur in the meantime, and Seraphine will be in a terrible spot, low on health and mana as the wave pushes away from her. However, the enemy bot makes the mistake of trying to fight against the push. The worst thing here would be Jinx getting low, so Lulu sacrifices herself, making sure the enemy focuses her instead. And that's a double kill into the AD carry getting a whole wave advantage into a turret plate. You'll see the exact same tactic here. You have the push advantage, so let's look to trade health with the enemy AD carry. Great, it works, and now Kog'Maw is incredibly low while a wave is crashing into the tower. Again, we can always choose to pivot to recalling if needed, but always be on the lookout for just tower diving. Even if you die, it's going to be incredibly worth it since it denies so many minions from the enemy ADC. And who knows, maybe you'll even get lucky and be able to escape, wasting the enemy jungler's time. And speaking of rebounds, here's a really powerful tactic you should look to use when your jungler starts on the opposite side of you. Since you don't have to leash, often this just guarantees you get the push advantage at level 1. Great, so you'll get the level 2 spike and potential all in. Then, once you crash the wave, try to stop pushing and actually let it rebound back to you. Yes, you're gonna have to type and ping to your AD carry so they're on the same page, and sometimes they won't listen. But when they do, it results in that rebounded wave to push back to you in front of your tower right as your jungler arrives on your side of the map. This is great if you're an engaged champion since you can set up really easy ganks with your jungler on this timing. It's also a great tactic to use against ranged supports as a melee support just throughout the lane in general. Just rebound a wave off their tower so you can then force them up the lane where you can look to engage on them. Now, along with rebounding, the other key wave control skill you need to have as a support is knowing which direction a wave is pushing after a fight. For example, here, there's a close fight where Tristana dies killing the enemy support, and Nautilus is able to land a clutch hook to kill the enemy AD carry after. Okay, so let's pause here. Looking at this wave state, which direction is it pushing? Well, we have 8 minions and the enemy has 9. But even more important is remember what we learned about rebounds. When waves are closer to the enemy side of the lane, the reinforcing waves of the enemy start damaging the wave sooner, thus causing it to push towards us. This means it's pushing towards Nautilus. This is so important for you to know, since if Nautilus tried pushing this wave, he'd be denying not only a ton of farm from his AD carry, but also giving the enemy ADC way more farm. Instead, by just recalling, the enemy AD carry loses a ton of minions as it pushes, and his AD carry gets a golden XP lead as they arrive back in lane. And as is solo queue, of course, Tristana gets caught out right before Nautilus gets back to lane. And so a chaotic fight ensues. In the end, Tristana trades her life for Pyke's, and Corki is left extremely low in health. Again, by being able to quickly recognize which direction the wave is pushing after a fight, in this case, it's once again pushing towards Nautilus. Nautilus knows his only job is to zone Corki off the wave, since once again, this will deny a ton of minions from Corki as the wave pushes away. And again, results in a big wave for Tristana to pick up, giving her another golden XP advantage, resulting in her being a level up and 10 CS ahead of Corki. Now, there's really only 3 more wave control tactics that your AD carry is going to rely on you to know. One is if you're first back to lane when the enemy is trying to crash a wave. You want to either tank the wave or pull it to stall it. This way, it sets up a freeze and prevents minions being lost to the tower, while also denying minions from the enemy AD carry. The second is when you're the one trying to crash a wave. You need to walk the wave in to prevent the enemy support from using that same freeze tactic on you and make sure it actually crashes under the tower so it rebounds. And third is being aware when an enemy ADC is trying to recall and looking to cancel it. For example, here, Caitlyn is low in health, the wave is pushing away from her without her support, so she's forced to take a bad recall. However, when you see an AD carry disappear like this, you should be looking to move ahead to scout if they're trying to recall to see if you can actually cancel it. In this case, by canceling her recall, it means after this wave crashes, it's going to rebound and put her in that exact same lane losing position. And like we taught you earlier, you always have the option to recall off that rebound. So now, as Pyke gets back to lane, Caitlyn is once again looking to recall off for push this time? Well, we know one of our jobs is to try and cancel it if we can. In this case, it actually sets up a really nice engage, getting a kill for our AD carry. Now, there are so many laning tips I simply can't go over in this guide. So if you want to learn more about how to crush lane as support, two other very important concepts to master are the triangle formation and brush control. We teach them in our trading chapter, along with what to do when you have a bad AD carry and simply can't win trades, and much more. All right, now when I said understanding rebounds is mandatory as a support, I was not lying. A huge portion of your early game impact will be coming from a tactic known as a rebound roam. So here, we just got a kill on the enemy AD carry, so it's time for us to push the wave to set up a recall timing. And just like we taught you, we walk the wave in to make sure the enemy support doesn't freeze it. Great, now that the wave is crashed and the rebound is happening, we have a roam timing. This is because the wave is pushing back to our side, so our AD carry can always play safe and just wait for the wave to arrive to them. As a default, every time you recall off a rebound, you should be pathing towards mid. This is because it lets you then pivot to any area on the map based on what you see. In this case, we spot an overextended low health trundle top, so that's an easy kill. Now, here's what's key. Your rebound roam timer ends once the wave crashes back to your tower. This is because, like we taught you, the wave is going to bounce off it and push away from your AD carry, forcing them to now overextend to last hit or be zoned. So after this gank top, we know we need to run straight back bot lane, and there you go. We're now back to protect our AD carry as the wave bounces away from them. So here's why this timing is so important. Here, Lulu gets a kill on Yasuo and finishes shoving the wave to rebound it and then recalls. Great, so we now know we're on a rebound roam timer. We default to pathing towards mid like we should, and look at that. We get paid off with a kill on Zeri. All is good. As you know, we now need to head back bot. But Lulu doesn't do this, and you see how unplayable the lane becomes for Ashe. She literally can't move up to even farm, so she just has to recall. So just be aware, this roam is very powerful, but you're on a timer, so pay attention to the wave bot or you can really screw your AD carry. Now, a thought you may be having at this time is, I can't do X strategy because if I leave my AD carry, they're just gonna die. Here's the thing, you have to get out of that babysitting mindset as a support. Not all AD carries are going to just walk up to a wave pushing back to them 1v2 and die. And when they do, well, newsflash, there's no way someone that bad is going to be carrying the game, even if you do babysit them all game. Basically, if you do a rebound roam and your AD carry is bad enough to die, well, they're likely so bad it's actually even more important for you to roam, since the other roles will be needing to carry anyways. Also, just because you're a support does not mean you only support the AD carry. Just think of how many games you've won where your AD carry did nothing and instead your top laner, mid laner, or jungler was the one that carried. It's perfectly normal and expected to have games where you'll be forced to transition away from supporting your AD carry and realizing, hey, this guy is kind of just bad, and instead focusing on supporting the other roles that are snowballing. And speaking of which, you want to be on the lookout for times where your AD carry actually doesn't need you. For example, here, Pyke respawns out of base. The thing is, the enemy AD carry is dead, so Samira doesn't really need him bot lane right now. So here's the adjustment. Instead of timing your roam off the wave rebounding, you can actually time it off Caitlyn respawning and getting back to lane. Again, we default towards mid, and that's just a free kill we would have missed if we just autopilot ran towards bot. And now that Caitlyn is coming back to lane, we head back bot, and with the enemy support now dead, that's an easy tower dive, setting the enemy AD carry insanely far behind. So a standard rebound roam is going to be your bread and butter. However, every so often you'll get what's called a death roam timer. Here, after this fight bot, Lulu dies while her AD carry stays alive. This desyncs her with her AD carry, since now Jinx will want to push out the wave and then recall to spend her gold. This is pretty much exactly like a rebound timer, it's just longer. So we get to roam off this, making sure we start our path towards mid to give us the most options. In this case, we're able to set up a kill on mid, and shortly after, you can see how our Jinx has recalled. At the same time, the wave bot is pushing back towards us. Now, if there's nothing else for us on the map, it's perfectly fine to just go back and maybe hope to try and catch the wave and freeze it for our AD carry like we taught you earlier. However, there's a fight in our topside jungle we can react to. Great, we're basically a second jungler in this game, impacting the map through the simple roam timer. Now, Jinx is arriving back in lane, and the wave is starting to push back towards the enemy, so our timer is over and we need to run as fast as we can back bot so our AD carry can farm. Now, another death timer to be on the lookout for is if after you die, you're desynced with the enemy support. For example, here, Pyke is the last one alive and is looking to push out the wave to rebound it. Obviously, with Pyke low in health, he'll need to recall after this. So we know we can roam here with our timer just being based on when Pyke is expected to be back in lane. Again, this lets us get a kill on mid. Meanwhile, Pyke is in no position to be able to do anything. Also, I should mention, with this type of roam, you have to make a read on whether you think your AD carry can lane 1v1. In this game, it's a Tristana who is decently ahead ahead of Corki, so there really is no way she should die 1v1. And if she did die, well, again, that means she kinda just sucks, and you need to be snowballing your mid instead of her anyways. However, if it was a worse matchup, like let's say an aggressive early game champion like Lucian into someone like Sivir, well, then we couldn't really do this roam since the wave would be pushing away from our AD carry, forcing them to overextend or give up last hits. Also, a nice side effect of a rebound roam is after you execute that roam, the wave is pushing back to your side. So this means if your jungler or mid laner follows you, or if you're just straight up stronger 2v2, you can actually then set up a gank on your own lane. This can be incredibly demoralizing for the enemy team, since not only did you get a roam off, but then their bot lane died right after. Okay, now a question you're probably asking yourself is, what are you supposed to do if the enemy uses these roaming tactics against you? Well, I'll show you. Here, Pyke is getting back to lane, and the enemy is finishing their crash to set up a rebound and recall. Great, so step 1 is anticipating that the enemy support could be going for a rebound roam timer. Step 2 is seeing the enemy AD carry in lane without seeing the support. Whenever this dynamic happens, you need to immediately look to try and go hyper aggressive and punish. Remember what we said earlier about bad AD carries dying 1v2? Well, you want to be why that happens to the enemy. And similar to how we punish AD carry mistakes, we also want to punish support mistakes. We see the support Nico topside, but this wave is crashing and going to rebound, so she's roaming outside of her timer. So again, the rule is aggression. We look to punish by looking for picks on the enemy AD carry. Alright, so now you know some of the most powerful and important tactics in the laning phase, but what about once the laning phase ends? Well, I actually see a lot of support snowball their lanes only to then fizzle out at this point. So here's what you need to do. When you're winning lane and you take that bot tower first, assume that you're no longer going bot lane for the rest of the game. Ideally, the macro strategy would be you and your AD carry will rotate one by one to each of the other lanes to destroy the outer towers there. Often, it will mean starting with a swap with your mid lane, since this lets you pivot to take Dragon, the bot side objective, if it spawns. However, once Dragon is taken and then mid tower is destroyed, you then pivot to take top tower, which also has the side effect of letting you control the top side objective, whether it's Void Grubs or Herald. I know this is incredibly simple, and half the time your AD carry just won't listen, but you'd be amazed at how few players just try to do this with their bot lane. It snowballs the game so hard and can give you really fast wins. Now, during all that time, you'll also be establishing what's known as a vision line. So if we go back, you'll see Lulu anticipate both the rotate to topside tower after mid, but also taking the Void Grubs that are alive. So she's going to establish a vision line in the enemy jungle. This is really key, since this is what's going to keep you safe, while also set up picks on the enemies that move through their jungle. If you want to learn more about vision lines, we actually have an entire chapter on warding in our new support course that has you covered. It teaches you how to use vision lines, how to push them forward, how to ward defensively when behind, and teaches concepts like strong side and weak side warding. It even has optimal ward locations for each team, and so on. It covers everything you need to know about warding that's just beyond the scope of this guide. Alright, so besides that simple snowball strategy, what else do we do in the mid to late game? Well, as support, there's really only one tactic you need to master, and that's looking to keep mid pushed, then rotating off that push to then put wards in the enemy's jungle around the next objective, whether it's Dragon or Baron. For example, here, you can see by having a wave pushing mid, it both pins the enemy further back in their base, while also giving you vision of them. At the same time, once you have established vision in the enemy's jungle, it lets you see really early on if they're going to try and contest your Baron take. This makes it so easy for your team to take Baron, since if you don't see anyone coming to contest it, well, that's free. And if you do see the enemy team trying to contest, well, they'll be face checking into Fog of War, so you can just peel off the Baron instead and look to make a pick on one of them. It is very important for you to be trying to control mid as support during this phase of the game. Since it's at the center of the map, it's going to allow you to rotate to any fight as needed, while at the same time, that very simple but extremely powerful tactic of getting the push advantage, then rotating to take an objective, you can just keep fishing for it until eventually the enemy doesn't react, and that's a free Baron for you. The other main mid to late game tactic to be on the lookout for is what's called a hover bait. If you spot a teammate pushing by themselves, especially an AD carry, you'd actually hover near them in Fog of War instead of actually standing in lane with them. This will often trick enemies into thinking they're alone, and then once the enemy looks to engage on them, you spring your trap, setting up a kill. You can actually do this in any lane with any champion. Since you're a support, you don't have to actually be in lane. You can just be close enough to gain XP. So always be on the lookout for opportunities to set this trap. Other than macro, teamfighting is the other big skill in the mid to late game that you're going to need to master. Specifically, understanding how to time your abilities. I'll give you an example. Here, Lulu looks to set up a pick on Echo. Notice how she doesn't immediately just open up the fight using Polymorph. She's aware that her Caitlyn has ult and could kill Echo, but Echo has his ult and could dodge it. So she gets Echo low enough for Caitlyn ult to kill him, and then Polymorph so he can't ult to dodge it. Shortly after here, her Caitlyn is in trouble. She could Polymorph Kog'Maw, but Leona is also threatening to cut off Caitlyn. It's much better to use her W to speed boost Caitlyn so she can get out of range of both threats, then making sure to hold her heal, baiting the enemy to overchase until they get a bit too close and using it again to speed boost Caitlyn to safety. Then, as the fight continues, she knows to hold her ultimate instead of rushing to use it. Since Singed and Lulu have enough movement speed and crowd control to stick on top of Kog'Maw. This means when Kog'Maw ults Caitlyn, Lulu knows Kog'Maw's ult does bonus damage based on missing health, so Caitlyn will need to be ulted here to live. Often, the key difference between an average support and a great support is that the great support isn't just spamming abilities on cooldown, they're making sure to get maximum value out of them. Also, I've noticed a lot of supports actually underestimate their ability to 1v1. There are plenty of times you can actually 1v1 the enemy, even solo laners. Like here, Nautilus is a tank, sure, but he still has decent base damages on his abilities. The enemy mid laner, Lux, is behind this game and only level 12 and is a squishy burst champion. Tank champions are great counters to burst champions, and so suddenly you have a support Nautilus 1v1ing a mid lane Lux and it's not even close. What's even funnier is this Nautilus built a Warmog, so he's just going to heal to full right after this anyways. Obviously, I'm not saying you can just 1v1 anyone, but common archetypes like tank support versus squishy burst mages, or support burst mages versus squishy carries. There are a decent amount of matchups you can win to be on the lookout for. And speaking of winning, if you truly want to learn how to carry bad teammates and finally rank up as a support, then you need our brand new 6-chapter support course at skillcap.com. This course will teach you step by step everything you need to start carrying as a support: wave control, trading, roaming, warding, macro, and team fighting. After that, head on over to our Smurf commentaries and select your champion to watch live commentaries from challenger experts showing you how to carry out of the exact rank you're stuck in. Best part, you can try all of this risk-free, since if you don't rank up while actively using SkillCapped, you'll get your money back, no questions asked. You can unlock all of this right now through the exclusive discount you can only access through the link below. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description below to get the rank you've always wanted this season. Alright, and that will do it for this one. We here at SkillCapped want to thank you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.